smash somebody, take the money, go.
Episode 255, let's go. UFC 328, finally a stacked card. We've had a lot of dusters in the rear view. We're going to quickly recap last week. If you're new here, Meat Boy MMA, smash subscribe and get these free locks. We've been DIY locks since 2020 and the only transparent pickers in the space. So let us know in the comments if you're rolling with our picks. But let's recap last week. My undefeated streak came to an end. I went 2-2. You went 3-1. The Meatlock did not cash. We had Benny Dariush, aka Chinny Dariush. We thought he would get that one done over Scalati, and ultimately he got slept. I thought that Dariush was looking good in the first minute. He even dropped Scalati in the first 15 seconds. Then he, had him up against the cage, decides to separate, exchanges some YOLOs, gets absolutely slept. So who knows what's next for Chinny, but what'd you make of the Elva Meatlock, and were you surprised by how quickly Scalati got it done?
Yeah, no, I was very surprised. I mean, the meat locks, sometimes a meat lock, sometimes it's a lock meat.
It was a Meatlock dog. There were long odds. We went for the Dink dog, and ultimately it didn't cash. But either way, we think we have a nice one to recover with. We also called Louis Sutherland over Tai Tuivasa. We basically said, yo, why is Tuivasa a near 2-1 favorite? He's lost 6 straight. We said that the beer belly brawler, Louis Sutherland, would get that one done. We were all over that. We both called Tim Elliott over Steve Urseg. And in the meat event, I thought that Jack Della would rise to the occasion in his hometown, but he got absolutely smoked by Carlos Prates. What do you make of Prates, and do you think he is not only the most exciting dude in the division, but even though he lost to Ian Gary, probably going to leapfrog him if we're talking title contention?
Yeah, what's crazy is like I don't know if Carlos Prates had a bad night versus Ian Gary or if he's now peaking, but in my head, Jack Della would have ragdolled Ian Gary, but now I'm like, I mean, is Ian Gary that good? Like, that's what's crazy. I don't know, and I honestly want to see Carlos versus Ian Gary again. I want to see that ran back, and then whoever wins that gets a title shot. That's my take. Because Carlos Prates looked absolutely insane. He made Jack Della look like an absolute amateur, which Jack Della has been ragdolling people for a bit now. I mean, he was the champ, right? So, just so crazy, so wild. To see Carlos Prates with that a beautiful performance. But he's so fun to watch. He's an absolute character. I'm rooting for him. I would really love to see that run back, or maybe, I mean, winning the title. That's one thing. So I don't know, but I do want to see Ian Gary versus Carlos Prates if it's in a championship bout where one of them's champ and then they're trying to defend it, or if it's to get to the championship. But I feel like that has to happen.
Yeah, I agree. I think the rematch is definitely inevitable, if not next, perhaps sometime down the road. And I feel like it will have to happen when one of them is champ. I just don't know if it makes enough sense to do the run back when neither of them is. And instead, you just maybe let Prates get a shot or let Ian get a shot, and then he defends for the first time against Carlos or vice versa. Either way, the rematch should be fascinating because if you remember that fight, Ian Gary won decisively, meaning he won clearly the rounds that he won. But those late round moments, Carlos Prates really had Ian in a lot of precarious spots. And Ian Gary, to your question, how good is he? I think he is that good. And against Jack Della, he probably does the same to him as what Carlos did. But who knows? We'll have to see when they run that back. But either way, any last thoughts on UFC Perth, or are you trying to just swap us through to the final actual banger of 2026?
Yeah, let's get the actual banger, the final one. This is an absolute meat down and a meat lock.
Swap us through, then you see the text. Tatsuro Taira is an absolute meatlock over the champ Josh Van, and rarely is the opponent of a champ the meatlock. But in this one, Tatsuro Taira just has to be an absolute lock over Joshua Van, and we're fans of Van. We think that the dude is next level. I mean, this guy beat Roy Val, he beat Pantoja, that's how he got the belt, and obviously there were some fluky circumstances with how he won the belt. But either way, the dude is the champ and has some great wins across a 16-2 record. But the kid Taira is 18-1, has one split decision loss against Roy Val, where he basically won that fight. It was fight of the night, so arguably he could be 19-0. And this is a dude who, of his 18 wins, has 14 finishes. So we think that the minus 150 odds are reflective of how much of a lock he is against Joshua Van. And the odds makers are obviously showing him some love, even despite the fact that he's a challenger. So what do you make of this Tatsuro Taira meatlock? Do you think he finishes Josh Van, and is it early or often?
Yeah, I think it's often in early, and yeah, I think Tatsuro's going to submit him, first, second round, to be honest. I think this is gonna be an absolute ragdoll. I mean, Josh Van is pretty sick, but like, I don't know how sick. He had a 20-second lucky dub versus the champ, and now he's the champ. So he's the pseudo champ. He needs to actually defend it. I just don't see him defending it against Tatsuro. I think Tatsuro has been leveling up and only getting better and better, and an absolute sponge, absorbing as much as he can. And I think Tatsuro could reign in this division for a while.
Yeah, he's, in my opinion, the scariest prospect that this division has seen to date because he's well rounded. He can do everything, whether on the feet, whether on the mat. I mean, that creative finish he got over Alex Perez, some of the gnarliest stuff we've seen. And Josh Van, meanwhile, I just feel like he's going to get exposed in this one as far as making it a true, well rounded MMA contest. And that's not to say Josh Van has many noticeable deficiencies or hasn't to date, but Taira just seems so much bigger, so much stronger, and just so much better than all these dudes in the division. And I believe that even if they ran that fight back with Royval, that's likely going to be a dominant performance for Taira. So in this meatlock, we're going with the heavy hammer. We're going to get back in green, throw down an easy 600 to net 400. I think a finish is in the works. If he does get the submission as you're predicting, do you think it's under 2.5? Any chance this fight sees the championship rounds?
I mean, maybe, but I don't know. I think Tatsuro's gonna get it done. If it hits the mat, I just don't see how Josh Van is gonna be able to defend himself from that absolute brutal wrestling smothering beat down submission. So it's gonna be KO TKO or a beat down into a submission. So I don't know. I would be very surprised if it gets out of 2 rounds, to be honest.
Yeah, I buy that. I like your prediction of submission. I think that's when Van gets flattened underneath the Tyrantula, that it's going to be bad news. So let's go Tyra, easy, light work, Meatlock. Let us know in the comments if you agree with the Meatlock or if you're fading and rolling in the Van down by the river. But swap us through, Meat Boy. It's another interesting one. Jared Gordon is a minus 307 favorite against Jim Miller, plus 252. And this is a fun one because Jared Gordon, we know the story, right? This is a hometown affair. This was a dude in New York City and now is fighting just across the way against an absolute legend, Jim Miller, who has the most UFC wins in company history, most UFC fights in company history. Yet, lo and behold, is a plus 250 dog against Jared Gordon. So, what do you make of this contest? Do you like Jim Miller as a juicy dog in this one against Jared Gordon? Or is Jared Gordon's bad luck finally going to end? Because this is a dude who has basically had a lot of bad luck and questionable decisions throughout his
Gordon getting
last
finished in the first.
6 fights where he's lost 4 of them. So is this where Jared Gordon rights the ship or is Jim Miller cashing as a dog?
Yeah, no, pretty surprised to see these odds. I'm not gonna lie. Like Jared Gordon, he's a solid levels test. He's solid, in that division. But I mean, Jim Miller's the levels test. So it's very wild to see 2 levels tests, but you have OG veteran levels test versus new gen levels test. And I don't know, seeing these odds, I got Jim Miller. I mean, it just looks so juicy, those odds. And I think Jim Miller's a better fighter. I mean, Jim Miller's low-key kind of peaking at 40. So I don't know. I think I'm going to roll with Jim Miller on this one.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I think you're making some compelling points. It feels like Jim Miller as a plus 252 dog could be the perfect opponent to spoil the hometown affair for Jared Gordon. And I'm curious to see how this fight materializes and if it does hit the ground, because you mentioned the submission game that Jim Miller has. Who do you envision having the advantage down there? Because obviously Jared Gordon is no slouch in any department. He's extremely well rounded. I mean, perhaps not the flashiest fighter, but very consistent everywhere. Do you think Jim Miller will have the submission advantage and the grappling advantage overall, or how do you see that playing out if it gets that far?
Yeah, no, if it gets to the submission, I kind of imagine Jim will have a slight upper edge. But I don't know. Gordon's pretty solid. Yeah, I think Jim will dominate if it's wrestling. Comes to the striking, they're both mediocre. Yeah, I don't see where Jim loses. They're pretty similar like fighters, but I think Jim has a stronger grappling background. Um, the biggest thing is the age gap, like, and maybe Gordon might have better striking stand up. So, yeah, I think Jim will still, pull through on this.
Yeah, they're very similar fighters. I mean, both in size, both in how they operate in the cage. And obviously, there's a wealth of experience for Jim Miller. But Jared Gordon has a lot of UFC experience at this point of his career as well. But I like your picks. I think Jim Miller gets this one done as a juicy dog, and I see this fight being pretty close. But I don't know, something about Jared Gordon's luck these last few years doesn't inspire confidence. I think that the luck is going to continue to run out for him, and Jim Miller emerged with a unanimous. Officially, are you going Jim Miller by finish or decision?
Yeah, I'm gonna go Jim Miller by decision. But it wouldn't surprise me if he gets a finish.
Let us know in the comments if you're taking the juicy dog Jim Miller or if Jared Gordon rights the ship. But swap us through. It's another fun one. Can't wait to get your perspective because Manuel Torres and Bobby Green did the same thing before him a few years later. But beyond that, Grant Dawson has been dominant. 11 wins in the UFC and was close to title trajectory. But when he starts inching close is when he gets slept. When his back against the wall, though, is when he starts to dominate. So Rabisi, meanwhile, is 20-4. You, I believe, at one point was saying he could be a future champ, but he's lost 3 of 4, and you know I've been off the Rabisi train, so I won't bury the lead. I'm taking Grant Dawson. Easy light work in this one, but if you're taking Rabisi, and I'm assuming you are, how does he get this one done, or am I tripping and you're picking Grant Dawson over Rabisi?
Yeah, no, most likely Grant Dawson. I mean, minus 163. I mean, it really makes no sense. I mean, he's gonna get absolutely snuffed by Rabisi. Rabisi's so much stronger, way more, Chad-like. He's gonna absolutely ragdoll this dork into oblivion.
If you think he's going to ragdoll him, what gives you confidence? Because Grant Dawson, we've seen him get slept, right? He got slept in the first round a few months ago, got slept in the first round a few years ago to King Green before that. But every other fight, he dominates. And often in fights that go beyond the first round when he's not getting slept, Grant Dawson's the one that's ragdolling. So, what inspires confidence that when Rabisi has this sort of mini Mendez muscle shark style offense, that he's going to have success against Grant Dawson, who is a dude who is just a better version of the mini Mendez efforts that Rabisi brings?
Yeah, I think they're very similar, but I just think Rabisi's just such a bigger, stronger dude where he's got way more power, way more threatening in the grappling and the striking area. Where if Grant can survive till the third round, he might prevail because Rabisi has a terrible gas tank. But I don't know. I think Rabisi's gonna get it done first round. I think he's gonna knock him out.
Yeah, and I'm a little bit. I was gonna say was a little bit surprised by that take, but I'm looking at Tapology and they're saying the exact same thing. So 59% rolling with Rabisi. It's basically all brown. They think that Grant Dawson has a suspect chin and Rabisi is gonna be the one. I'm seeing it the other way. I'm rolling with the 41% of Grant Dawson backers. It's basically all beige. They think that Dawson, if he wins, it's going to be a snoozer of a decision. But I think Dawson's gonna go out there and actually finish Rabisi. Rabisi eats way too many shots. His face closes up at the end of every contest, and I think Grant Dawson is stronger on the ground and ultimately just beats Rabisi to a pulp. So I'm gonna go Grant Dawson by third round finish. You're going Rabisi first round?
Yeah, I think Rabisi first round is most likely what's gonna happen. If he doesn't, he probably loses to decision.
Yeah, it should be a fun one. We'll see who's on the right end of that one, but let us know in the comments if you're taking Rabisi or KGD. But another fun one, Sean Brady is a minus 150 favorite against Joaquin Buckley plus 144. And Sean Brady is another dude, I guess, somewhat similar to Grant Dawson in the sense that he's 9-2 in the UFC, but just got absolutely slept in the first round by Michael Morales, aka Mike Mo. And then obviously the only loss before that was when he got slept easy light work by my boy Bilal Muhammad. So it's a fun one here for him to rebound potentially over Joaquin Buckley, who's 11-5 in the UFC and just got absolutely smoked by Kamaru Usman. So both fighters, I think, need a win, and both dudes would prefer getting a spectacular one so that they can reinsert themselves in title contention. So, what do you make of this contest? Do you think Sean Brady gets this one done, or is Buckley going to sleep him just like Mike Mo did?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is one of those kind of sleeper locks where I think Sean Brady absolutely ragdolls Buckley, but it wouldn't also surprise me if Buckley gets, the flashy KO. Buckley's kind of peaking, Sean Brady's kind of peaking. They're both kind of in their pre-peak arc right now, but total different styles. I just wonder is randomly Sean Brady not gonna even shoot for a takedown and just get smoked, or does he ragdoll Buckley like he usually ragdolls people? I'm very curious to see, but I gotta take Sean Brady in this one. I just think he's just got a little bit better skill set and a little more threatening. But Buckley does have the X Factor KO power.
Yeah, and we saw Usman really dominate Buckley and saw Buckley struggle against all the takedowns. So I think it's a great strategy for Sean Brady just to, from the jump, go to his roots. Don't even try to mess around on the feet. Just go, just spam ragdoll essentially, because Buckley won't have the answers. And the longer this fight stays on the feet, I mean, we've seen Sean Brady eat shots and ultimately succumb to them. So if Buckley, who will also have a 5-inch reach advantage, can keep this fight on the feet, I worry for Sean Brady, but I'm with you. I think Sean Brady rebounds, rediscovers the sauce. This dude, I mean, is basically the CEO of the sauce mafia. And after training with Bodybags Piper as often as he does, I think he'll be prepared for Buckley. So I'll go Brady. Are you going to go finish, or does this fight somehow go 15 and it's just a dominant 3-round, 30-27 affair for Sean Brady?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a dominant. Maybe he gets the finish, but I think it's gonna be a dominant decision for Brady. I think it's gonna be beginning to end absolute ragdoll sesh.
Yeah, dominant decision indeed. Let us know if you agree with the pick of Sean Brady. But swap us through. It's another fun one in this one, and one that I think we might be on the other side of a lot of Meat Boys because it's Alexander Volkov taking on Waldo Cortez. And Volkov is minus 150, a slight favorite over Waldo, who is plus 144. And Waldo, I mean, what can we say, Meat Boy? Every time Waldo Cortez fights, we usually pick against him. He usually wins. So it's one of those fights where it's like, is Waldo Cortez good enough to beat Alexander Volkov? Because to me, Volkov's a 50 fight veteran. The dude has won 5 of 6, and his one loss was a split decision to Cyril Gahn, where he got absolutely zucked, got absolutely robbed by the judges when they wanted to fast track Cyril Gahn, and a split decision loss to Volkov would have derailed the plan. So Volkov, in my estimation, has won 6 straight, beat Cyril Gahn, and is a justified minus 150 favorite against Waldo. But we pick against him all the time, and he usually burns us. So are you taking Volkov in this one, or are you on the Waldo train officially and he cashes as a dog over Volkov?
Yeah, where's Waldo? I mean, man, I don't think so. I mean, where's Waldo always pulls through as a dog. I mean, the guy's absolute garbage, but somehow he keeps winning. I gotta go with Volkov. I rarely ever pick Volkov, but Volkov is the real deal. I just don't see how Waldo's gonna get it done. I mean, if Waldo was a wrestler or had that in his back pocket, maybe, but Volkov doesn't really lose too many people if it's in the stand-up game. There's only the goats that he has lost to, and that he smokes everyone if it's stand-up.
Yeah, and when he needs to, he is able to get some takedowns and really mix it up. I mean, obviously Aspinall was one dude who exposed him and just got a great position, got the straight armbar. But we've seen Volkov, especially the last few years, really utilize his wrestling a little bit more. And I think that'll be a good pathway against Waldo, who we know is an accurate striker. We know he's going to be throwing those leg kicks to Volkov, who can sometimes be heavy on the lead foot. So I think that Volkov it'll be in his best interest to mix this one up and really try to make it ugly against Salsa Boy. If you're taking him in this one, do you think he ends up picking up a finish over Salsa Boy, or is this fight a close decision and from there the judges might get creative and zuck him and give Waldo the split?
I mean, would not surprise me if he zucks him and gives him the split, but I got to imagine that Volkov has got the skill set and probably puts him away, to be honest.
Yeah, 65% of Tapology rolling with Volkov, 35 going with Waldo Cortez, and all the Volkov backers are taken by decision, so they think that the judges will be on his side. I believe that Volkov will get this one done. I'm picking him with you, but I think he needs to win 3 decisive rounds because if 2 of them are even somewhat close, I really think he's going to get screwed, and the ascension of Salsa Boy continues as opposed to the resurrection of Drago, who we saw over the champ and was unsuccessful. So this should be a fun one. I'll go Volkov officially by 3-0 decision, but don't be surprised if it's a salsa split in the end. So any last thoughts on Volkov, Waldo?
No. I think Volkov Volda is a sick bout. It's an interesting one, and probably Volkov should win. That being said, Waldo probably wins via corruption.
Yeah, let us know in the comments if we're sleeping on Waldo. We usually do and often burns us. So let us know in the comments. But swap us through me, boys. The last one. It's the meat event. Hamzat the Wolf taking on Sean Strickland. And the thing that most intrigues me about this fight is how much the odds have swelled even in like the last 48 hours. There was a point when Hamzat was closer to a minus 280, minus 300 favorite, and he has since swelled to closer to 460. I've seen even upwards of minus 500 against Sean Strickland, who's about plus 372 in the plus 400 range. And I guess it makes sense. The last commentary I heard was from DC, who said that Hamzat has self-imposed a bounty system on him to his training partners, aka encouraging them to go as hard as they can, and if they're able to either submit or knock him out, then Hamzat will personally pay them a four-figure sum. So rarely are you seeing dudes in training camp encouraging their opposition to go balls to the wall and try to sleep them, and perhaps those facts have influenced the odds to swell him to minus 500. But we know Sean Strickland is obviously unafraid and a dude who spars pretty recklessly in his own right, so is obviously going to be ready for a scrap. So in this one, do you like Sean Strickland as a plus 372 dog? I mean, the last time we saw Strickland with dog long odds like this was when he cashed as around plus 600 and got the belt over Izzy. So is this another true underdog story for Sean Strickland, or does the dog just simply come up short against the wolf?
Dude, so crazy. Such a wild matchup, but I mean Strickland, he looks so good, and somehow he beats these guys in such weird ways where it just like it would not surprise me, um, if he gets this done. Like that being said, the Wolf is the Wolf. He's for sure gonna win. But is Sean Strickland weird style? I mean, I think they already know who's gonna win. They've sparred before. There's footage. Everyone kind of knows, but I don't know. Sean always surprises us, right? He wins fights that he should never win. So it wouldn't surprise me, but I gotta imagine this is gonna be a one-sided, very sad thing to watch, and the Wolf's just gonna ragdoll him.
If the Wolf does ragdoll Sean Strickland, do you see this fight being similar to the fight against DDP? Because that was a fight where Hamzat would be on the feet for 5, 10, maybe 15 seconds, and once 20 seconds maybe expired, he was spamming takedowns and getting them with absolute ease before keeping DDP simply pinned to the ground for basically 25 minutes. So if you're envisioning a Wolf ragdoll sesh, does it look similar to that? Because we've long heard about Sean Strickland's grappling. We know he's defensively sound. He's a slick BJJ practitioner, despite the fact that throughout the last 3, 4, 5 years, the real reign of Sean Strickland, he's basically just had the jab and the teep kicks. But we know the foundation is there. So my question is, will he have enough defensive skills to maybe perhaps put up a better fight than what DDP did in that arena? And if so, could that complicate the ragdoll? Or I guess I just want more on how do you see Hamzat ragdolling Sean? Does it look exactly like it did against DDP?
Yeah, I think it looks the same DDP, but even worse. I think he probably submits Sean first round or finishes him. Um, if Sean can keep it on the feet for 2 rounds, I think it's going to start, getting a little scarier for Hamzat, and Hamzat might be panicking because it's not working out. But I just don't see how Sean's going to stop Hamzat from doing whatever Hamzat wants to do.
Yeah, it's like in that fight against Abus Magomedov when he tried to feed Abus a carrot in that first round, and ultimately Abus takedown kept him there the entire round, but gassed out. Whereas when we see Boers, I mean, this dude has, he's the CEO, infinite gas tank, unlimited refills, and I don't see a situation where he just gasses out similar to Abus did. So I'm gonna go Hamza in this one. I think this fight does go into the later rounds, though. I hope it does. I don't want it to be like Hamza versus Kevin Holland, where it was just so non-competitive from the jump. And a part of me fears that that could be a parallel in the outcome. But I'm going to cross my fingers that this fight's a little bit closer, a little bit more competitive. And I'm going to go Hamza officially by fourth round finish. I think he's going to get a TKO. I mean, Hamzat's a dude who is, I don't want to say he's in need of a finish, but a statement finish over a guy like Sean Strickland, I think, could go a long way. So I'll go fourth round TKO Hamza. Officially, are you going first round finish?
I'm going to go first round finish submission Hamzat, yeah, 100%.
82% Tapology rolling with the Wolf, 18 going with Strickland. Let us know in the comments if you're taking Sean Strickland as a dog and we didn't learn our lesson from when Izzy got collared and Sean will cash again. But either way, it's a fun one, Meat Boy. Episode 255, UFC 328. Tatsuro cashes for the Meatlock. Any last thoughts?
No, for sure. Tatsuro, Meatlock, cash, for sure.